Good afternoon, everyone. Let me introduce myself to you first. My name is Danella, commonly known as Crypto Queen online. Let me give you a little bit of background about me. I come from the education sector. I stepped into crypto in 2020 and I started hosting spaces because I wanted community. No one in my life was in crypto, so I really wanted community. I hosted my first show when the Hinman emails dropped in 2023, and then I started hosting regular spaces. Then early last year, with the help of my good friend Dazzling, I launched the Crypto Queen show, where I could actually elevate and amplify projects on the XRPL ecosystem. So that is my target. That has been my target. I run it in a very clear format. But what I'm here to talk to you about today is how you build your voice and your visibility in Web3. And I feel like I'm a good use case of that because that's what I've done. That's how I've ended up here today. So I'd like to thank the InFTF for having me here today. And for all the people that have been on the Crypto Queen show or been hosted by me, you have helped amplify me and elevate me. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. So thank you. So why is it important that we build our voice in Web3? Well, most of you are developers. I am not a developer. I have not launched a token. I purely come from the educational background. So it's important because if nobody amplifies you or you're not hosted by anyone to speak out on YouTube or at IRL events, then nobody knows about your project. Right? And I know that a lot of developers, who likes public speaking here? Anyone? Any hands? No. So who has, oh, you do, Robert, that's right, you do. You got on spaces and you were like, I love this. And that's what I loved about it too. I love speaking on spaces. I love connecting with people. I love building community, but not a lot of people do. So who suffers anxiety in public speaking? No, Vita, you do not. I know, I noticed that. And neither does Robert. But people do, right? And it's there's a name for it. It's called glossophobia. So let's go. Public speaking 101. It's called glossophobia, and it's where you freeze and you can become anxious. Your throat can become dry. You can clam up. Maybe you get the sweats. You know, you feel immobilized. Now, this is not just on public speaking. It can be on a space as well, right? So, you know, rapid heartbeat. What else? Anything else you can think of? Anyone else suffer from anything else?
People sweat a lot.
Yes, sweat, yeah. Sorry, Sal?
You already mentioned that.
Yeah, I think you can... I've had this also myself. You can blank out and you can forget what you're actually supposed to say. So, you know, the muscle tension in your voice, you can start to tremble as well. So this freeze response is kind of a normal fight or flight survival response, but you can manage it in public speaking. So I have trained, mentored and coached many people before through public speaking. So I'm going to go through some tools that I think to help ground yourself that you can use for public speaking 101. So you can shift from performance to having a conversation. So for me, like this is a conversation here today because we're all friends in the room. So, you know, that's one way that you're not presenting, you're taking the pressure off and you're connecting with the audience. The other one is voice activation. So however you like to do that, you can warm up your voice. If that's getting in the shower and gargling and singing, no problem. Have a pre-speaking ritual. Now mine is, I like to play that song Unstoppable at the beginning of my shows. I was playing it on spaces, but I would also play it prior to getting on a space. It's kind of a boost up, but whatever works for you. And a good friend told me, you're a queen. So be the ninja queen and be unstoppable. So thanks for that, my good friend. Smile, because even if the person can't see you, if you're on a space, they can pick up that vibration. So remember to smile. And naming the nerves can also help you reframe that so that you are not stuck in that. So there you go, there's the nerves. So the nerves are really just an energy. So you can put them to good use, get rid of the imposter, and start showing up today. And you can also say to that part of yourself, no, you're not showing up today, that imposter. Not today, not here, not today. Feel free to stop me at any point in time and ask any questions if I didn't already say that. But the next tool that I'm going to show you is probably one of my favourite. And so not only do I come from an education background, but I come from a yoga instructor background. I did study in India. So this one is one that I use. It's called box breathing method. You inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for 4, you exhale for 4, you hold for 4. And you should repeat that like 4 or 5 times. What that does is it slows down the nervous system. It actually activates the parasympathetic nerve or the rest and digest. So it allows everything to basically become calm. Does anyone use that tool? Anyone? Yes, Tom, thank you. I like a nod of the head right up the back of the room. It's validating, thank you. So that's really, it's a very basic tool that you can use. And for me, it creates more space and a sense of calm before I start speaking. Okay, the power of storytelling. So I am not a developer. I'm not as technical as most of you in the room. So as a host, I don't see my role as being technical. Of course, I do my research and I try to understand as much as I can. But as a host, I'm there to facilitate the conversation. But you are the technical. You have the technical knowledge. But what I find powerful in being a host and bridging to the community is that you use stories to resonate and build trust. And I feel, Vita, you do this extremely well with the community. You tell stories when you're on spaces, but also in your dialogue, in your posts. So you make it accessible to the community. Engage the audience by including them in conversations if you are on a space, because that really allows them to understand and openly ask questions. People connect with the simplicity, not the complexity. You can make things way too technical and then you lose the audience. So breaking it down, because the community thrives on dialogue and not a broadcast. And I'm on camera, so I better not say that. As we know, there are a lot of narratives and they become a broadcast rather than actually a connection with the community, I guess is what I want to say. And then transparency, which requires the vulnerability and accountability in the, with the community. Speaker mindset. So if you're asked to speak or be hosted by someone, you're not the glue. The host is the glue. So you get to be the glitter. You get to sparkle and shine. So your role as a speaker is to answer the questions, steer the conversation if it needs to be steered, be the expert that you are, but bring your humour and your warmth and your authenticity to it. I like to use names often, particularly if I have a panel of speakers. So I'll refer to people. I'll say, what do you think, Slav, of that? Yeah? Or I'll say, let's take that one over to Vita, because that personalises the conversation for me as a host. Speakers, and then as I said it already, breaking it down for the audience. Like, explain it to me like I'm 5, because I'm not technical. And that makes it relatable for the community. Your audience. I guess as a speaker, your job is to follow the lead of the host. If you are speaking on stage, then it's different. But your host bridges between the community and the speakers. So they may not understand the level of technicality in the room, but they can redirect it to you by asking questions. Consider your personal brand, and I'll say a little bit more on this again, but how it aligns with the audience and the expectations of the community as well, and what you want to bring to the community. So you need to tailor your energy accordingly. You can't come in and be kind of tired and hungover or whatever, but you need to be like upbeat, which is why I play a bit of music beforehand, and why I say smile. Of course, I'm not asking anyone to be inauthentic in public speaking, but when you bring that energy to a room, or when you bring the energy of who you are authentically and make it relatable, then, you know, that builds your credibility, in my opinion. If anyone wants to ask any questions, please do. I mean, there's opening and closing, there's lots of words on here, but basically, you know, you want to make introductions to speakers really well. You want to, why is that important? Because it sets expectations, makes it relevant. Create a clean closing. So, you know, ask your speakers that are on your panel, if you're on a X space, you know, what their key takeaways are, or, you know, thank them, invite them to share their socials if that's appropriate. And I think this helps solidify the audience's memory about what they've listened to. And so I think that's why the close is important. And it can prompt further discussion through posts or conversations beyond that particular space. Okay, presentation techniques. Well, there's different ones for spaces than there are in IRL. If you have a speaker on an X space that is talking really for quite a long time, maybe help them land that plane, or interject and ask them to make their point. That's not rude, in my opinion. Keep track of time. Your host should do that really well, but it's good if you are speaking and you're being hosted by someone that you also keep track of time. Tell stories to humanize it. Some of this is a bit repetitive, but I've put it in there anyway. And have a few connective phrases, like that's a great segue into this, or let's hear from, so that you can share the speakers that you've got on the panel. All right, the next one, answering audience questions. So for me, this is really important because you might have a few requests of people that are coming up in the X space or from the audience here that want to ask questions. Try to get to everyone. I think that's really important, but also gauge who are going to have the best questions if you know your audience well. And if anyone doesn't have a question, which has happened to me before, have a couple of questions written down yourself that maybe you can say came through a DM or that you've discussed with the person that you're hosting, so that you can manage those questions if there's none. A big thing that I've seen with students over the years, and I've definitely coached a lot of students, international students, is your tone and intonation. So if you talk in a monotone voice, you will lose your audience really quickly because basically they just switch off. So you need to change it up. You need to bring a little bit of intonation, projection of your voice into the space or into the room. And if there's an inappropriate question, which I've also had this before, thank the person and steer the conversation the other way rapidly.
What's the most inappropriate question?
Good question.
The question.
I mean, other than that.
Maybe can't say it.
I'm not going to put it on record here. The next part, I guess, is what I really want to say to everyone in this room, and it's a conversation I had with Bharath a couple of times, is that this is your Media 101. If you haven't had it from anyone in HR, from Zahao or the INFTF, consider this it today. How you behave on an X space or on a post or any public place representing INFTF or Zahao is always on record. So remember that how you carry yourself publicly, you are always on record. You may be approached by a journalist. You might get a KOL reach out in your DMs. You might be on a space, or someone might approach you in person. Remember to be professional. You are always really in an interview. You are always, I guess what I want to say is you are always on record. So everything that you say or do reflects on you and the organisations as a whole. And I've had to be reminded of this, even in the conversation with Bharath. There are things that I would love to say, but I don't. I pull back and I don't say them because I realise who I am representing and where I am standing here today. So, in that, if someone does approach you, ABC. Answer and acknowledge the question. Thanks for reaching out. Or thank you very much for that question. So you're acknowledging it. B, bridge to a new thought or discussion point. Again, redirect the conversation if you need to. And C, connect to your messages and targets for the conversation. So if you're going to be interviewed by BBC, for example, acknowledge the question, bridge to new thought, and connect to your message, the reason and the purpose that you are there to be interviewed for. So don't let those inappropriate questions steer you in the wrong direction. This formula, very successful to remember. Again, this is your Media 101 training today. You know, there's other phrases that you can say, like, that's an interesting take. You know, as a host, you can redirect and say, let's hear from someone else. Yeah. Are there any questions about that?
No, but I feel very nervous.
It's not meant to make you nervous.
You're going on now on an impromptu.
Is this an interview?
No, you're going on next, and we're going to give you a topic to speak on.
No, I think what I'm saying is it's about awareness. Who you are around, what you are saying, who you're saying it to, what audience you're saying it to, and how you conduct yourself. It's more about awareness.
I do have something to say on this. People think that putting in it's become a favorite line on bios on Twitter or X or whatever. Opinions my own. Apart from being, incorrect grammar, opinions should be your own. That's why it's your opinion. But they think that's like a disclaimer for saying whatever they feel like, and then saying that I don't represent my brand or my company. Right?
Yes.
That doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So if you're representing, if you're a known employee or a face of anything, right? Just saying opinions my own doesn't cut it. You're on the record, as you said.
Yes. So for all those people whose bios do have that in there, you probably need to look at that and revamp it. Sorry, not sorry. All right, connect and learn. I guess one way to get better at public speaking is also to connect and learn from those that do it well. Observe what other people are doing. Be constructive and look at what they're doing great and then look at what they could improve upon so that you know what you can improve upon or what not to do. And, you know, performance. I guess have a trusted friend or colleague that you can debrief with. Someone that will give you honest feedback, but it's not going to tear you down. Someone that can give you the constructive feedback or the constructive criticism so that you can improve. I remember when I first started hosting spaces, I did a lot of ums and ahs. And so had a chat with Daz, and it was like, yeah, taking a pause and breathing before the next sentence comes out of the mouth. Naturally, as Australians, we do and ah a lot, but taking a pause or a breath before you speak. There are videos that I had, but I wanted to keep it short, so I'm not going to show them. But yeah. No, I'm not going to share them. I'm going to move on. They're just basically watching a presentation and looking at it and seeing there's two different ones. One is a great one and one is a little bit cringe, painful to kind of watch. And it's good to see the difference between them. But the future of Web3 for me is dynamic networking events like this. And I do consider this a very dynamic networking event for myself. You know, the learning curve here for me, because as I said, I'm not as technical as most people in the room, has been invaluable. So for me, I love to empower people and I love to contribute and create and build. So whilst I'm not a builder, I'm really trying to elevate and build community out there. And that means not only on X, that means by attending small IRL meetups, having conversations one-on-one with people. I am definitely about promoting inclusivity and diversity. I would love to see a community hub. I'm just putting this out there. I would love to see hackathons and more small meetups. But most importantly, I think it is important to be authentic, inclusivity and transparency. And I guess for me, that's what Zahao and the INFTF do. And that's why I am here. So if there's any questions or thoughts, please ask away. But this is my question for you. What can I be and do differently to create the change, choice and possibilities that I would like to see? Whether that's for yourself, for the network, INFTF or the world beyond, it's an open question. You don't have to answer. It's just more of a contemplation of how can you, I guess, create the change, choice, possibilities that you'd like to see. I would like to thank you for your time today, for listening to me ramble on. I am about educating and empowering blockchain communities. I have completed my diploma of applied blockchain and Web3 consultant, and part of my business is being an empowerment coach. So today, that QR code will give two people in the room a connection call to work with me one-on-one for a coaching call if you would like to work on public speaking. That is free of charge for people in the room here today only. Please do not share that out with anyone else. It's only available to the people in the room. But you can get me on X, on Telegram, but most of you probably have my personal number now, so no problem. Yeah, I'd like to, again, thank you for your time, and if there's any questions, happy to answer. No questions?
No, I think you, this very subject of your topic implies that there may not be questions. Because, you know, if you look at it, even asking questions is a part of public speaking too.
Yes.
Many people are, I think one of the things to take away is don't be scared to ask questions.
Yeah,
either,
absolutely.
right? So that's something which people also need to say that that's equally part of the same thing. That's a flip side of public speaking.
Yeah.
Not only the person there, but it's here. Because to me, it feeds back to the speaker because nobody is now, everybody's scared to ask questions. right? So it's a kind of recursive thing, right?
Might be a stupid question. or something.
Yeah, so that's what. So there are no.
There are no stupid questions,
No, there are.
yes.
There are. But there are no stupid questions which you think are relevant, right? I mean, don't ask why are you wearing that dress? I mean, that's ridiculous, So when you say inappropriate questions, so those are
Yeah.
kind of questions. But otherwise,
Yes.
Yeah, subject related questions.
yeah, subject related
Basically,
questions.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.